Welcome back to another episode of Tucked In Wizards. As always, my name is Aidan. I'm here with my co-host Ben.
Welcome back, guys. Today is the 2025 mock draft. We just uploaded the recap video for last year's mock, and we're back with another one. We'll probably upload this right before the draft, but just for some timing things. As of right now, we are recording this after the Desmond Bane trade. So Desmond Bane was just traded to the Orlando Magic. The Grizzlies just traded into this draft. That's where we're at right now. If there are more trades down the line, we might throw in something during those picks to kind of say something later. But for now, that's the only trade that has happened.
Yep. And I'm going to immediately forget that they're at 16 as well.
yeah. Interesting trade. Probably overpay for the Magic. But I feel like that's one of those we kind of just have to see how it works out before we really judge it.
Yeah.
Like with most trades, but some you could kind of tell off the bat, oh, this isn't going to work out for them, and some you kind of can.
Yep.
All right, let's
jump. The first couple picks will
be
pretty clear. I was just gonna say, I think the first couple picks are gonna be pretty obvious.
Yeah, so we'll jump right into it. So, Aidan, you got the number one pick last year.
Yep.
I got the number one pick this year. Crazy how back-to-back years we mocked a white guy going number one. I don't know when the last time. Now that I'm thinking about it, when was the last white American to go number one in the draft? It's probably been a long time, if ever.
I don't know, Larry Bird or some shit, probably.
Yeah. Interesting. Number one pick, Dallas Mavericks. Still can't believe they got this pick. Obviously, it's Cooper Flag. He's been the best prospect in the draft for multiple years, I think. We've been seeing Cooper Flag hype for at least 2 or 3 years. I'm just looking at my draft guide over on the side.
Since Wemby, for sure.
Amazing hype for him. I mean, he's pretty much good at everything. He fits Dallas pretty perfectly. He can come in as the third option right away, which simultaneously puts a lot of pressure on him and also less pressure on him to perform, because he doesn't have to be the guy right away, but he also is on a team that has championship aspirations. So we'll see how he can kind of fit into that as well. But like I said, does pretty much everything on the floor well. Elite defensively, elite offensively. If he gets a little bit better handles, we're looking at a true star.
Yeah, for sure. I think the development's going to be a little tough. He is behind Kyrie, he is behind AD, and he's probably just going to be mostly on offense, kind of spacing and shooting and maybe cutting every once in a while. But the defense, legit. He's definitely going to be, boosting that part of them up.
It should have been us.
I'm curious. It should have been us. It should have been us, man. I'm looking at the NBA draft order too. I didn't realize there's so many trades this year.
Yeah, a lot of trades. Nets have 4 or 5 picks, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of Nets picks. There's a lot of from 13 to 22, every single one of those picks have been traded at this point.
Yeah, so
which is crazy. But anyway, moving on to number
crazy.
2, San Antonio. Obviously got some pretty good luck to move up here with they already pretty good foundational core for the future. But I think this pick, I'm not going to draw it out. It's going to be pretty obvious as well. I'm just going to be taking Dylan Harper here. There's people that are like, oh, can he play alongside Castle and that kind of thing? And I think you're just way too early in this rebuild to worry about that. Just got to go with best player available, and I definitely see him as number 2 in this draft.
Yeah, I think Dylan Harper's number 1 in a lot of drafts that Cooper Flag isn't in. And you can kind of say, oh, but it's Wemby Scoot. But Dylan Harper's a little bit more poised than Scoot is, even coming out of college. Obviously, Scoot out of the G League Ignite. And yeah, Dylan Harper is just a fantastic prospect. And people are like, I don't know how he'll fit with Castle and Fox. I think he has potential to be better than both those guys. So I don't think it'll really matter if he can fit with them. They're going to have to fit with him. But we'll see if that comes to fruition.
Yeah, we'll
Number
see.
3. Did you have anything else to say about Harper?
No, not really. I think Harper's one of those prospects that's already been pretty evaluated.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Number 3, I'm going to go with the guy who's 3rd on my board. And there's been kind of conversations about this pick for Philly, where it would be Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson. I think we've even seen some Malawak hype buzz for some reason at 3. But I'm going to go with this is my personal favorite prospect that isn't the quote unquote star, like obvious stars, and that's VJ Edgecombe for Philly. I think his fit next to Maxey is really, really good as a defensive stopper, point of attack defender, hyper athletic. One of the most athletic guys I've seen since like Amen Thompson, which I guess isn't that like far ago or long ago, but he's just my favorite prospect, my favorite guard, just super athletic, Victor Oladipo type guy, and I hope he develops into that superstar that he can be, especially with how fast he is and how quick he is. I think he needs to rein in it a little bit. He's a little out of control sometimes, especially when dribbling. But get him out in transition, and it's bucket after bucket after bucket for VJ. Hopefully not with Philly, but hopefully as a player overall. But he goes Philly.
Yeah, I would love for him to fall to the Wizards at 6. I think he fits really well with what we have going on here already.
Yeah.
Wingspan's a little shorter than some, like, you know, really, really good defenders, but as a guard, I think that doesn't really matter as much. He's super athletic. He's really good at staying in front of his guy. He can definitely take some playmaking duties. I think he would have a bigger role here than he will in Philly if he does go there. But I agree with you. I definitely see him as the third best prospect in this draft. I like Ace Bailey, but there are things about Ace Bailey that concerns me, along with Trey Johnson as well. A little worried about Trey Johnson's finishing and just like kind of some of the smaller aspects of his game, where VJ Edgecombe to me is a bit more polished for what his role is going to be. But moving on to number 4, obviously we've got Charlotte coming up. They are the top of the bottom 3 teams who kind of got screwed in this draft. But this one's kind of tough. They kind of have their foundational pieces already, I feel like. They have their lead guard, who's their star guard, obviously, with LaMelo. They've got their star wing with Brandon Miller, I feel like, already. And then they have, like... It's a bit unclear outside of that. They have some pretty good, like, random pieces around, but nothing really to bring it all together. But I think if I'm them, I'm just have to take Ace Bailey here. He's just, I think, out of the ones left, he has the highest upside potentially. There are things like he was a little smaller than people were saying, which is concerning because that was his big thing. But he's a really good shot maker, which is really big next to Melo, I think, and super athletic player. I think he would definitely I think he needs a bit more of an opportunity to showcase what he can do and to kind of grow into that role, and I definitely think he can get that in Charlotte.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea for Charlotte at all. You can start moving on from Miles Bridges, which they definitely have to do.
Yes.
And then you get Ball, Miller, and Ace, and not a bad one of those guys you would have to assume is going to break out just with the shot making that all 3 of them can have. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if it comes to fruition for Ace. Obviously, like you said, there is a lot of concerns around him, particularly shot selection, the height not being as tall as we thought. I don't know what was going on at Rutgers. Like,
that was weird.
That team was horrible, but also just the weird height difference that we ended up seeing at the Combine. But yeah, I think a good pick for Charlotte either way, and they would be happy he falls to them.
For sure.
Number 5, Utah. So Utah needs kind of everything at this point. They're in a similar boat to the Wizards, except without as many foundational pieces. You could say Keontae, I guess. Taylor Hendricks, we'll see how he looks when he comes back from injury. Kyle Filipowski, Collier. But I'm going to go with Trey Johnson here for Utah. I think they need a scorer, a guy who you could basically give the ball and get out of the way, and that's what Trey Johnson is. He's a great ISO guy. He's a great shot maker, shot creator. Obviously, the finishing concerns we kind of talked about, but out of Texas, I mean, you could just see his averages right there. He averaged 20 points in college on 42% shooting. So, bucket getter, that's what the Jazz need. They just need kind of someone at this point to score. Really do. And we don't know what's going on with Markkanen, whether he's been traded. I mean, he's not a guy you can give the ball to either and be like, go get us a basket. It's more of a spot-up threat.
Yeah, this is one of the guys that I would really like if he fell to 6, obviously. All these guys would be good to take as 6. Yeah. But Trey Johnson was one of the guys I had my eye on for fitting within what we have going on with the Wizards really well, I think. He's not as defensive as a lot of the prospects we've been picking up, but he can score. And we, just like the Jazz, we are a team that needs someone that can just get a bucket sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
But moving on to the actual Wizards pick, I think...
This is the big one.
This is the big one. I mean, this is about what I expected for the draft to kind of shake down. I definitely see VJ, Ace, and Trey being off the board here, which is kind of tough because this is... I think those players are a little above the players that are left here, so I'm hoping maybe someone falls for Con Nepal or something like that. I don't like Con Nepal, but we'll see. I think I've liked this guy the whole time. He's a little short, but I think I have to go with Jeremiah Fears for the Wizards. I really am intrigued by the athleticism and the playmaking, and he's pretty good at... He can create his own shot decently. He does have a lot of holes in his game at this point, but he is 18. He's super young, which fits what we have going on here. But I do think there are some options that the Wizards GM is going to be looking at around here that I think they might reach a bit if it falls out like we expect with VJ, Ace, and Trey. I think we might see Malawak get picked here. He fits a bit better with what we've been building long term with that defense and just kind of like... It's really, if you look at our last 3 years, we've really been focusing on just straight defense, straight playmaking, and just figuring out shooting and everything else as we go. I could even see maybe Noah Sengu. I know he's been getting kind of a buzz recently. It's a bit of a reach at 6. But I know this Wizards front office really likes to identify their players and just go out and get them.
Yeah, we saw that with Koulibaly a couple of years ago.
We did see that with Koulibaly. I thought that was a bit of a reach at the time, and now obviously I love that pick. But at the same time, Jeremiah Fears is one of those guys who's been kind of... There's been whispers about him really impressing in those interviews. He apparently had a really good workout for the Wizards. And I think I'd be pretty happy if the Wizards pick Fears here. So I think I'm going to stick with it and go with Fears.
Yeah, obviously I want to spend a little bit more time on this because it is the main thing of the channel. I love Jeremiah Fears for the Wizards. I think he'd be one on my board if the draft fell like this. Malawak, I like him. I just have concerns with him. It's like a high upside guy, but when I look at him, I'm like, there's high upside, but like, exactly what does that upside look like in a way?
Yes.
Because you are going to be limited as a 7'2" rim running big. That's just how it goes. And then the other guys, obviously Noah Sengu would be great, but that would be a reach. Obviously, great free throw rate, but Fears also great free throw rate.
Yep.
And just the handles Jeremiah Fears shows it's just like one of the best handles in college. Mm-hmm. And you really can't go wrong taking a chance on someone like that, especially, 6'4" is not tiny, right? So playmaking comes along, shooting comes along, self-creation comes along, and this could definitely be the point guard of the future.
Yeah, for sure. And I do want to emphasize, we are swinging for the fences with this pick. This isn't like, let's take a guy who's kind of proven himself in college and can kind of contribute immediately. Like, that's how I kind of view, like, Con Nepal, who's not much older, but he is a little older. Where Fears, the three guys we've kind of identified, Fears, Malawak, and Sengu, are all, like, freshly 18. They're all super young, and they're all... We definitely have identified some big holes in all of their games, but they're so young that those can definitely be shorn up a bit. And that's why I like Fears kind of impressing in these pre-draft interviews, because for a lot of these guys, it's going to be, do you have the effort to put in to develop these things, and do you have the intelligence to identify what areas you need to work in the most? To me, that's the two biggest things for success as a young guy. Just kind of the intangible, like, you need to get in the gym and shoot free throws 1,000 times a day, and like, are you going to do that? Are you willing to do that? Can you identify that as a weakness of yours? And I think that's something where I always like when players kind of ace those pre-draft interviews. It's a little different to me in like football, where it's a bit more like, do you fit the culture, more than basketball, where it's like, I feel like it's more like analytical, like how do you look at the game, how do you see yourself? But I'd be happy with any of those three. I think Noah Sengu, We'll get to it later, but Noah Sengun would be my pick at 18 if he's still around. Don't think he's still around, but we'll see.
I already know a few teams that I would pick as Sengun.
Yes, me too. Me too.
I don't think he's going to get to 18. But we'll go to 7. It's the New Orleans Pelicans. Couple options here for the Pelicans. My main concern with New Orleans, obviously besides like the injury stuff, is DeJounte Murray your point guard long term? He played pretty bad as a shooting guard in Atlanta, so I'd like to think that his spot is at the point. But at the same time, if you're the Pelicans, you do have to go best available, right? Yeah. And I'm between two guys here for New Orleans. I've mocked this guy to the Pelicans pretty much every time. I think I'm going to switch it up for this. And I'm going to go with Kasparas Jakušionis for the Pelicans. I think he has a lead guard, a playmaking guard to feed Zion, to feed Trey, even to feed DeJounte if he's not coming off the bench. I'm assuming CJ probably won't be in New Orleans for that much longer. Getting the playmaking as opposed to the other guy I was thinking of was Kanepo as opposed to like a Swiss Army knife could be what they need, especially since it seems Joe Dumars and Zion do have a good relationship and do want to continue building towards him being the focal point. So I think getting a playmaker who can kind of fit in, get him the ball where he needs would be good for them. And I also think Kasparas has a little bit higher upside than Knipple as well. So I'm going to go with Kasparas Jakušionis for the Pelicans.
Yeah, I like that pick. Like I've said before, I'm pretty down on Knipple. It's just the wingspan's kind of concerning to me. And I don't know, something about him. There's some players in every draft that I just look at and I'm like, I don't know, I don't feel it. I was wrong we were hating on Montez Buzelis last year. I was wrong with that.
Although we still picked him super high, so
we did pick him super high. And this is another guy who I've seen mocked to the Wizards a bit, Kasparas Jakušionis. Jakušionis, I don't know how to say his name.
Jakušionis, I think is right.
But to me, I think he fits a bit better in with like New Orleans, what they have going on. Like I think he can come in and immediately start to contribute, and like you can really see the ball handling come out, especially with Zion. So I definitely like it for New Orleans. I think he'd fit in well. But moving on to number 8, one of Brooklyn's many picks in this draft.
5 picks in the draft, 4 in the first round for Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Well, it might see one of those get traded on draft day.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they got the Milwaukee one at 19. They've got 2 in a row, 26 and 27 with New York and Houston. So there's some that aren't super valuable later in the draft. So I could definitely see like packaging a few of those up.
A trade up maybe.
Yeah, trade up or do something. We'll see. But if I'm them, I don't know. This is kind of a weird spot. Brooklyn is a weird team where they just kind of need everything.
It's a very weird spot.
I think if I'm them, I think I might be willing to take a big swing on Malawak, honestly. I know I'm kind of shitting on Kanepo a little bit because I do think he's maybe more of a sure prospect than Malawak. Because to me, Malawak has really high upside, but the downside could be he just ends up never really being able to rebound, never really being able to shoot outside like 10 feet away from the basket. And that kind of archetype is tough to make work in today's NBA. We do see it with like, Derek Lively. We do see it with Rudy Gobert to an extent. But I think if I'm Brooklyn, I'm just taking a huge swing and hoping something pans out. So I think I am going to take Malawak for the Nets here.
I like Malawak.
He just has more upside to me than anyone else at this position.
Yeah, and with we're not sure what the Claxton future looks like in Brooklyn. I know there's been some rumors around then, and I like if you're Brooklyn, you're at 8. It's kind of hard to It's hard to find the guy that's going to be your franchise guy, right at this spot. So taking the swing on Malawak, you could pretty much if you hit it correctly, you get a rim runner, a shot blocker, a rebounder, and that's what every team is looking for in their center. So
Yep. And like this could be a foundational piece to build around. This could really set the future of your rebuild if you hit on this one.
Yeah.
And if not, it's not the biggest deal. They're still early. They're kind of in our position where it's okay if they miss a few.
Yeah. And they have 4 swings anyway, so.
Yeah, exactly.
We see with the Raptors at 9. So interesting spot here. I don't know how much farther I want Knipple to fall because he is one of the top prospects. but I don't know. No, I think I will. I'm between two guys here for Toronto. I'm trying to think of what Masai would be doing. I think...
I know what Masai would do. He'd pick Malawag if he was there, but he's not.
Yeah. I know the Raptors have been desperately trying to get Malawag. That was going to be the easy pick for me at 9 if he fell. I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take a little bit, not really a reach here, but not... No, I'm going to play it safe for Toronto. I'm going to pick Concanepple. I was thinking about maybe Carter Bryant or Noah Sengu here, but I think Concanepple is just better than both of them. So don't overthink it. If you're Toronto, you pick the best guy on the board. And for me, that's Concanepple. I know Aidan was hating on him a little, but he really is a Swiss Army knife that just kind of fits what a team wants. He can cut well, he can shoot well, he could be like a third playmaker if you need him to. Obviously, I don't know about the highest upside, but if he does hit, we could see, I know, mocking white guys to white guys, but like a Gordon Hayward type player who is a one-time All-Star, because he kind of has the same physicals and play style. So Concanepple for the Raptors, I think he'll fit well with. We'll see what Brandon Ingram brings to the Raptors quickly and Barrett, and now you add another wing in Caneppel there as well.
Yeah, I like this for the Raptors. I think my main concern with him is just like his wingspan's a little small. He is already kind of big, so it doesn't matter as much. And I think he fits really well in with what Toronto has going on, where they already have like 3 or 4 young guys who are kind of showcasing what they can do already and could be foundational pieces to build around. Well, Scotty Barnes definitely is. Yeah. Kind of seeing what they're getting out of the rest. So you add someone in that can kind of do everything, kind of fill in those holes that those guys leave, and can also maybe develop into another franchise cornerstone. I definitely like that for them. Moving on to Houston, who has
this is a weird spot, right? Because will this guy really get play time?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's tough to swing here if you're Houston because you already have like a 10-man rotation that you're playing all year. So you don't want somebody that needs a lot of play time to kind of develop, but you also don't want somebody who you kind of want someone that can just come in and immediately contribute. And I think also, just looking at who's left, I know we're kind of marching down this your draft board at like, just taking it down one step at a time. But I do think Carter Bryant would fit really well with what they have going on here. He's a big 3-and-D guy. They kind of need some shooting from anybody that isn't Jalen Green and can be a bit more consistent. And they're always looking for defense. That's kind of their MO, is defense first. So if they could get a guy who can really, really play aggressive defense and then on the other end knock down some of these shots that they have opportunities for, I definitely think that would fit pretty well with what they have going on. And like I said, I kind of hesitate to pick one of these young Noah Sengu 18-year-old guys who need a bit more play time to kind of get into it. And I know Carter
pick the ancient 19-year-old freshman.
I know. But this is a weird draft. Everyone's so young.
Yeah, and I agree with you. 3-and-D players are super hard to come by in the NBA. So if you have the potential to get like a really good one, that's why you see guys like DeAndre Hunter go so high, because they have that big wing that can also knock down the three. And Carter Bryant, while younger, I think shows that same potential. So I think this would be a home run pick for the Rockets. I pretty much mock him here in every draft I do.
Yeah. All right, I've got a quick update for you guys. Kevin Durant just got traded to the Houston Rockets. In return, the Phoenix Suns did get the 10th pick this year, so obviously that pick is not going to be Houston anymore. But we are going to stick with Carter Bryant at that spot. I think he fits pretty well with what Phoenix has going on. And, they don't really have anything going on, so they just need some high upside, young 3-and-D guy, hopefully. But yeah, excited to see what Kevin Durant does in Houston. Big blockbuster trade right before the end of the NBA Finals.
But I really like Carter Bryant and this fit. Even if he doesn't get play time right away, I think it's a guy that as you move on with this Rockets team and you see who really fits when it comes to the playoff time and who doesn't, if they pick Carter Bryant, they won't be hesitant to trade away a guy like maybe Dylan Brooks when they could be like, oh, Carter Bryant can come fill that role. So
yeah, that's a good point. And just something I thought of too, looking from the economic side, like these are the type of guys you're always looking for as a contending team out of the draft, because if you can have this guy in a rookie contract while you're still competing, that's that's gonna these guys get a lot of money in the free agency marketplace. Mm-hmm. So if you can lock it down with an affordable young guy early, it's tough to hit. It's kind of what we saw the Nuggets swinging for a few years, but they did get Christian Brown, who kind of fits that archetype as well. But the CBA changes a lot of things with money and role player money. Yeah,
and I think the draft is more important than ever.
I think so too.
Because of that. Moving on to Portland, this is where I take my big swing, I think.
Yeah.
Being at 11, you have some foundational pieces. Obviously, you have Shaedon Sharpe, who is looking really good. Looks like he has a lot of potential. Mm-hmm. I don't know where Anthony Simons is going to be in this situation. I don't know if he's going to be on the move, if he's going to stay. You have Denny Avdia, who obviously we're both really like, former Wizard. Yep. And then you have Scoot Henderson, and Tamani Kamara, and Donovan Clingan. So a lot of a really good core that you can kind of start to build around. We see some improvements out of Scoot Henderson coming into the year, and it's very likely he takes another big step this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to add another wing to the mix. I'm going to pick Noah Sengu here.
I like that.
He's just a really transition wing, defense first, draws a lot of fouls. Obviously, the shooting needs to come along if he wants to be a really good player. Kind of looks like Will Dawkins.
He does kind of look like Will Dawkins.
And obviously, I would like the Wizards at 18 if they fall. I don't know if I love him at 6 for the Wizards, but if they pick him, I would be mad. I think this is a perfect spot for him here at 11 for Portland.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, just looking at some of the people after Portland that would be interested, it's pretty much everybody, I think. And I think there are some people that I think he could go earlier for sure to like Toronto, maybe, like Houston, maybe. But if you look like San Antonio would love to get this guy. I think Oklahoma City 100%. Is a place that would love to get him. Even somewhere like Memphis, where like they just always have, it seems like they always have time to play their young guys because everyone's injured. Just any time where he would get some consistent play time, I think he would really, really be good. And I'm very high on Noah Sengu, as we've talked about already.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the defense and the foul merchant, the potential looks really good in the league he's playing now. So
yeah,
we'll see if he can transfer those skills over to the NBA when he comes to.
Yeah. Moving on, we have Chicago next. This was kind of
another team in a weird spot.
Yeah, like I was thinking about it. I don't know what direction Chicago is even trying to go in. Are they going to be playing young guys? Are they going to be looking for someone to compete? Like, it doesn't seem like they're competing, but they always try. But if I'm them, I don't know. See, I'm between a couple guys. They're both bigs, I think. I don't think they really. I think it's just best player available to me. And I mean, as a Maryland guy, I think you gotta try and do something unorthodox if you're Chicago. Nothing's really worked for them. They don't really they're kind of in a weird spot where nothing really seems like it fits together. So I think if I'm them, you might as well just take Derek Queen and hope you can get some of this upside of I've seen the potential is definitely there. He's a very weird player. I'm not as high on Derek Queen as I know some other people are. I've seen mocks putting him to the Wizards at 6. I don't think I'd like that very much. But obviously I'm a Maryland fan. I like him. He performed really well in the big moment. He's really good at rebounding. He's in that weird Sabonis, Jokic, Şengün area where it's he can kind of be the focal point of an offense if he needs to be, it seems like. But you also have Josh Giddey right there, so he doesn't have to. Which takes a bit of that pressure off of him. And if it works out, I think that kind of connection between him and Josh Giddey could work really well. There are concerns about, he's not the greatest rim runner, for which a big isn't great. He's not a great defensive player, and he can't really shoot, which are some pretty big caveats. But it's some of those things, like shooting can come along, defense can come along. You can learn those things. Where this kind of center playmaking archetype that's been popping up in recent years, it's pretty rare. And, all three of those guys I named are pretty solid NBA players who are going to have a long career.
If not all NBA.
If not all NBA, exactly, yeah. So if he can figure that out, that's kind of a intriguing piece of his game. And I think if you're Chicago, you don't really mind if you pick him and it's he's good, but he doesn't ever become that. Because, I don't know, they're just kind of mid anyway.
Shit. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you as Derek Queen. I don't know if I'd like him higher than this, but I think if you're Chicago, he has opportunity to learn from Vucevic, who also kind of fits that same role a little bit, less playmaking, but more scoring and stuff. And he can kind of learn from him, play behind him for a little bit, and then when they eventually do move on from Vucevic, which they should soon, he can kind of step into that center role with, like you said, Josh Giddey, Kobe White, if Kobe White doesn't get traded, and go from there.
I think that's a big part of it to me, is it gives you some of the freedom and confidence to trade away Vucevic, which I think should happen soon while he still has a lot of value. And as you said, you can never understate the impact of a vet on a big, as we learned with Valanciunas and Sarr this year.
Exactly. Yeah, you can see big steps from him just even watching Vucevic play. Yep. I know Vucevic, everyone, like, not the best anymore, but he's still very good player. Obviously, very good fantasy player.
I like Vucevic a lot. He's just in a weird position. He is in a weird position. Like, he doesn't fit into Chicago, so it's just kind of strange.
Yeah. For Atlanta here at 13, this was a Sacramento pick. Sucks for Sacramento. I'm going to go with a big here. Obviously, we'll see what they do with Capella. I don't think he'll be back in Atlanta. No. Onyeka Okongwu is good, but I think they need a little bit more. And I'm going to go with my... Sorry, what were you saying?
I was just going to say, and you need somebody to back him up if that's your...
And you need someone to back him up, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with what I think is the second best big in the draft, and that's Thomas Sorber. Just kind of like a classic big who just kind of is a double-double guy. He'll get points, he'll get rebounds. Isn't the flashiest, will block shots, isn't the flashiest, but he does have some potential here as a playmaker in the post. Good defensive positioning. Obviously, there's some concerns. He's not really a great shooter, and this touch around the rim is a little bit to be desired, but I think the other things kind of make up for that. And stuff like that, maybe not shooting, but finishing, I think you'll learn as you go. And Trae Young's going to make it so much easier for him to get the finishing. So I like Thomas Sorber here. I think the Hawks probably take a big at 13, regardless, whether it be Sorber, whether it be Asa Newell, or even Joan, the French guy, who was mocked like late into the 20s. But I'm going to go with Thomas Sorber.
I like Thomas Sorber a lot. That was the guy I was kind of deliberating between for Chicago. I think he fits a lot better in Atlanta with Trae Young. Yeah. He's a bit more traditional than Derek Queen is, which is kind of... It's not what Trae Young needs, but I think that really showcases what Trae Young can do. The finishing is a big concern for me with playing next to Trae Young, because that is what he's going to want you to do. He's going to want you to catch lobs and finish them. And maybe, it's way easier when it's Trae Young passing you those lobs.
Yeah, that's what I don't know who else was on Georgetown. I can't imagine it was easy for him.
No. And the screening is a big thing that I think is going to be super valuable for Atlanta if they pick him here.
Yeah, that was another thing. Is Onyeka Okongwu is good, but Sorber, more size, more screening ability, and just kind of the ability with Onyeka Okongwu to play, okay, sometimes with Trae Young we're going to have this prototypical post big, and the other time we're going to have Onyeka Okongwu, who's kind of plays more like a four in a sense. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yep, it will be interesting to see. And moving into another interesting pick for me is the Spurs' second pick of this draft. They have, 2 firsts? That's it?
Yeah, 2 firsts, 2 and 14.
They're kind of a weird spot, too, where every spot besides center is open right now. And there's a lot of really interesting players left, I think, for them. I think if I'm them, I just you gotta always prioritize shooting in this spot, I think, where you already have some young guys, but you kind of need some pieces to kind of bridge those gaps and kind of really make a cohesive team. And I think Rasheer Fleming is a guy that would fit in very well with what they have going on. He's a really big 4, but he's more of a 3-and-D stretch 4, where his big thing is obviously shooting. He's really good on defense, and he can kind of guard all kinds of different defensive looks instead of just kind of like the paint, which is pretty typical for a big guy, or usually you can do one or the other, and he can kind of do both, which is pretty rare. And like a lot of the downsides I see from him don't really apply, I think, in San Antonio, where like he can't really handle as well, he can't create his own shot as well. Like, all right, Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, they're getting you the ball in positions where you don't really need to worry about ball handling or self-creation. You're just kind of shooting it, and then you can kind of focus on defense on the other end. So I think he could fit really well. It's one of those picks where, like, you know, I think he could come in and contribute immediately, but if he doesn't, I don't think it's a big deal for the Spurs. And I think if it pans out, he could be a really good core rotational piece for them. Yeah,
Fleming it's like one of those things where it's depth, right? So you have Harrison Barnes right now. You're fine with moving on from Harrison Barnes because you're like, oh, Rasheer Fleming can come in, fill that role. Keldon Johnson, same thing. So we'll see how he does. Obviously, a little bit of older guy, but that could be good for the Spurs.
Yeah, the Spurs, to me, like, it's a weird thing because Wemby's so young, but he's so good that you already have, like, Fox, too, and Stephon Castle's looked really good, so it's like, why not just try and build our team right now? Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not terrible at all. Number 15, OKC. OKC's in the finals. They have the 15th pick.
Fucking nuts.
Crazy. Obviously OKC is going to hit that apron soon, and they're going to need to get these picks. They're going to need to hit on these picks. I'm going to go with a little bit of a different pick here. I've seen him mocked to OKC a lot. I know people do not want him in OKC, and that is Cedric Howard. So he's kind of a young wing, not the best or a decent wingspan. Kind of does everything well, and this is one of those. He's a senior, obviously, Washington State. He's kind of one of those, like, J-Dub type picks where it's like he could pan out really, really well, or it's just kind of he's just kind of there doing everything at, like, an okay level. But I think he has good potential. I'm not as high on him as some other people are, but I think dropping to OKC, I don't think OKC hesitates at all into picking him. He's been shooting up draft boards. Because, again, OKC is one of the positions, like, if he turns out, great. If he doesn't, you know, whatever. We have a million other draft picks. We have all these other guys on the team. We haven't even seen Nikola Topic play at all. Yep. So this is just another guy they add to the stash that they can keep in rotation, and maybe he contributes.
Yeah, for me, I was deliberating between him and Fleming for the last pick. To me, they're, like, not as similar players, but they kind of are, like, similar situations where it's like, whatever, if he pans out good. If not, it's okay, we can move on. We have a really good core already.
Yeah, and just the ability to play with J-Dub and Shea in that kind of that connective piece.
And to me, he's kind of like a classic OKC pick. I think he's that's a Dawkins guy for sure. Like, if Dawkins is still the assistant, like, he's like, we gotta pick Cedric Howard. Like, that's our thing. And I think if he's there at 18, I think the Wizards would love to have him. Which is not too far away. He could definitely fall. This is the position where we're still a couple weeks out of the draft. I think 13 days to be exact, where kind of anybody could move around at this point. We saw last year there's really, really big jumps and falls, and it's weird because all the teams, I think, have really good scouting now, where a lot of these players are a lot more vetted than they used to be. So a lot of these, like, oh, well, the analysts all said this guy's the best. Well, it's like, well, we talked to him, scouts talked to him 2 years ago at this game, and we think this, we think that. I think the draft process is a lot more intensive now for across the board for every team, really. So I think these types of guys are guys that are definitely going to get snapped up, which is like, you know, he can contribute, he's long, he's a good shooter, like, it kind of fits all the modern NBA checklists for me.
And I have to agree with that on Coward.
Now moving on to Memphis at 16.
Yeah, it says Magic on this here, but it is Memphis because of the Bane trade. This is
they just got the trade. Memphis is another team. I don't know really what they want to do. Like, I assume, obviously, they're keeping Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., but that's not even really a guarantee. They've had such it's such a weird 3-year stretch of, like, all these injuries and, like, never really getting to the point where it felt like they should be after they were the 1 seed a couple years ago. So I think if I'm them, I think it's tough because they have so many young guys that can immediately contribute, but I think you're pretty happy if you're taking a guy like Drake Powell here. He kind of fits. I like the shooters next to Morant always. I think that's an archetype that works really well with those athletic guards that are jumping out the gym and kind of like, okay, well, I can't find anything here. Even like I'm trying to drive on this guy who's really good on defense. I can't find an opportunity. Let me dump it out to Drake Powell. He can take a 3 and maybe make it. And he's a really good POA defender, point of attack defender. So that's always useful when you have a guy like Jaren Jackson who's kind of filling in those gaps. You can kind of say, hey, let's have Drake Powell in this guy. We don't have to worry about it. Jaren Jackson, you can kind of fill in these other spots where we need you a little bit more. I think he's kind of got, like, he's pretty young, of course. He's only 19, so he wouldn't maybe be able to come in and immediately contribute. But to me, I view him as having a pretty long NBA career with that wingspan and the shooting ability.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Drake Powell as well. I think, again, these prototype 3-and-D guys are hard to come by, so you want to take them when you can. And I've seen him mocked anywhere from this spot all the way to the second round. So it's going to be interesting where he falls on draft night. But again, I do like Drake Powell. I think he is a good fit. I think he can be that Desmond Bane replacement if he works out. We'll probably see some KCP in there. We'll see if he can have a bounce back year in Memphis.
I am curious.
Yeah, I don't hate that pick.
I wonder if this Desmond Bane trade is the first step on a bigger teardown. Because it doesn't really make sense if you look at it from a competing now situation. KCP wasn't very good. Cole Anthony's decent, but it's like he's worse than Desmond Bane, and you're getting all this draft capital. Maybe it was one of those things where it's like we just can't pass this straight up because of the draft capital.
I think that's more what it was.
But it gives them options.
It gives you options. From my perspective, you still have John Jaren.
Yeah.
This KCP is a swing. Like KCP,
Sure.
if he reverts to Nuggets form, which was only 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an elite 3 or elite shooter. Obviously, wasn't an elite shooter in Orlando, but he could be the guy next to Ja that you need. Obviously, you're missing that third option now in Memphis, but maybe it's Drake Powell. Who knows?
Yep. My thing with shooters who have kind of lost their shot is I'm just mentally scarred from Bertans. Yeah. So he might never get it back. You never know. It's just so volatile.
It's just it's such a weird thing. We got Minnesota next. So Minnesota, I'm interested. Interesting spot for them. Obviously, this is Detroit's pick.
Yeah.
They went Rob Dillingham last year, and they also went Terrence Shannon. Terrence Shannon obviously was pretty big in the playoffs. I'm between two people. I'm between Colin Murray-Boyles, obviously weird archetype for him, and Nick Clifford. I think I'm going to go with the older guy, Nick Clifford, kind of a more ready prospect for a competing team, and someone who can kind of come in and really do everything. Again, similar to Cedric Howard, but for Colorado State, he was the guy.
Yeah.
Don't want to make the Johnny Davis comparison here because it is a similar situation, but he is a little bigger. I'm a little bit more confident in Neek, and he kind of tore Maryland up in that what was it, round of 32 or Sweet 16 game where Derek Queen hit the game winner. So just an offensive threat, just kind of good all around offensively. He'll be able to find Anthony Edwards will be able to find him. Minnesota also does need a point guard, so. Because we were not sure about Mike Conley, but I think getting the guy who you're pretty confident is going to be able to contribute right away and help you on that quest for a championship is good. And Clifford will be a good bench piece for them, especially on a rookie contract.
I like that pick a lot. I think Clifford's going to have a lot of value if he's picked by a contending team or a playoff team in general, where he's like a little old for a team that's looking to fully rebuild. Like, looking at the next pick, if I'm the Wizards, I don't really think I'm considering him that much. Where if I'm Minnesota, it's like, well, this guy can come in and immediately play, and this could be one of the pushes we need to get past that conference finals and make it into the finals finally. Yeah,
you get one Clifford game where he hits like a couple threes, hits a couple pull-up mid-ranges, and it's like the Ben Mathurin thing we just saw in the finals a couple days ago.
Exactly. And
Not the choking one.
I know defense is a bit of a question for him in general, but Minnesota's a very good defensive team, so he can get hid decently, I feel like, and you know, he has a pretty big wingspan. He could probably do decently against like one of the guys that's like, if he's getting hunted by, he's not going to get hunted by the worst offensive player on the floor at that moment.
And you know, coming from Colorado State, he was the offense, so maybe in a spot where he has less of a role, we could see more defensive intensity.
For sure.
You see that stuff.
And now the big
Wizards
pick.
at 18.
Wizards at 18. Wizards at 6 is one of those where I was like, I kind of know who I want here. Wizards at 18 is weird because there's like 3 or 4 players I'd be very happy to draft here. I know you're very high on Noah Penda. That's a guy that you see a good future with him. I like him a lot. I don't know. There's just so many players. I don't know exactly which direction I want to go if I'm the Wizards. I think this very much depends on what their first pick is in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you might as well just get another swing. And this is a guy who I've been pretty... Actually, I don't know. I'm still looking at Noah Penda. I do like Noah Penda with the defense because it does fit very well with what the Wizards have going on. And he could... To me, it's like... That's where the offense starts to come in, and I'm like, I'm not sure. Where if I'm picking a guy at 6 who's supposed to have a really good offense and can like really get that together, I think I could be happy with Penda here and not have to worry about the shooting. Where versus like hypothetically, if they're drafting like a Malawak, I would want someone a bit more with a bit more offense here. And I am kind of splitting between a few players. I do like Jace Richardson. I do think he's a little small. I don't think I would draft him if I'm the Wizards, but the potential is like very much there. That's definitely a swing. And if the shooting really comes out, then I don't think the size matters as much. I'm also looking at Nolan Traore. This is a guy who I saw before the season mocked even up at 3. And had kind of a weird year with the French team. And I know recently he's been really turning it up and kind of going back up those draft
Another
boards.
guy getting lottery buzz now too.
Exactly. So if like you can get a guy like that here, I think you're very happy with that. And I don't think I'm going to overthink it a bit much. I think I am just going to take Nolan Traore. It's like, he's 6'3", he's 19. We don't know his wingspan yet, of course, since he hasn't measured since he was with the French team. But to me, it's just like, I think having a really nice ball handling playmaker, like we've been hearing buzz about trading Jordan Poole, someone that can step into either that role or a supporting role behind Bub, I think would be really good. The defense is a bit of like, I'm not sure, and he's not the most consistent shooter, but he can, it's kind of like, to me, like early Bradley Beal, like really cutting, like really good floaters, really good at like getting the defense uncomfortable and off of their game. And I think when you have that, the shooting can come later. And I know he's not the best finisher, but to me, I just think that this could definitely develop into a pick that, could pan out to be one of our, like maybe our backup point guard or our starting point guard for the next few years or the future.
Yeah, and I agree. I like Nolan Traore. I like, obviously, Noah Penda is my guy at 18.
Mm-hmm.
If I was the Wizards, I'd pick him. If Asengu is not there, another...
Yeah, obviously.
Seems like
if Asengu's here, I'm picking Asengu, but I think Asengu's going like 10.
Yeah, I think he's going a lot higher as we thought. That's the fun thing about mock draft is nobody really knows. No. Like, we have guys, people that not even drafted yet that people might pick in the top 15, right? So that's the great thing about mock drafts. A lot of guys that I would like here for the Wizards. And I don't think picking 2 point guards is really that big a deal because it's almost like there's nobody good. So just pick best player available and don't overthink things. You can figure everything else out later.
I also think for guards, it's one of those things that doesn't really matter as much. Like, you can just stick one of them at shooting guard if you want, and it's like that.
Well, don't get me started on the 2 small guards.
Yeah, I know you hate 2 small guards. But Nolan's not that small. He's still 6'3". We don't know his wingspan. This is one of those things where, like, if he has a really tiny wingspan, I might be a little concerned. But we just don't really know. Same with Noah Penda. We have no clue what his wingspan is right now. But I think, like you said, we just don't really, like, you can't really worry about, we're picking 2 point guards. Like, you can just kind of throw them in wherever. And we see the NBA being so positionless. Like, Jaden Ivey could even be a point guard on another team, and he's a shooting guard for Detroit, like one of those situations.
Exactly.
And I do like Noah Penda as well. I think I'm not upset at all if they pick Noah Penda here for sure. I just think, like, he is a little older. The shooting's a little concerning. The handles are a little concerning. It's not really the role he needs to fill.
Transition guy.
But yeah, definitely a big transition guy, which is, it fits with the pace we have going on. #1 pace in the NBA, baby.
Yeah, we'll continue that for sure. Brooklyn here At 19, a couple guys on my board here for Brooklyn. Obviously, Noah Penda, who again I really like. But I don't think I'm going to go. I actually think for Brooklyn, I'm going to go with Jace Richardson. Again, another team where I feel like you have to take big swings. And we've seen that. They have taken a bunch. And I feel like Jace Richardson, if he pans out with Malawak, could be an amazing dynamic duo. Yeah. And then you'll still have Cam Thomas. Obviously, he's short and a combo guard, so it's a little bit weird of a combination. But if he figures out a lot of these improvement areas, like his shooting and all that, he'll be a really, really good player. I think the size is really the only thing that brings him down. Yeah. But I still think if you're 19 in Brooklyn, you're really happy with this pick. Yeah. Other guys, Igor Demin, you could consider here. Obviously, huge playmaker. Yep. And then Noah Penda, like I said, Ben Seraph, a couple of other guys who are good with the ball in their hands. But I like Jace Richardson the best out of those guys. So that's who I'm going to pick here for Brooklyn. And I think Brooklyn, if they get Jace and Malawak, they are pretty happy. Yeah, I know a lot of Brooklyn fans want Jackie Jonas. Obviously did not fall to them in this draft, so not available. But we'll see. I like that duo for Brooklyn.
I definitely agree. I like Jace Richardson a lot. I was just kind of picturing when I was contemplating picking him for the Wizards, like the Sarr Richardson pick and roll would be really nice because they can both shoot the three. But at the same time, not to go back to Nolan Trier, but I do think that he is going to be a little higher than where we have him here, just because of his recent performance and how he's been doing in the French National League versus adults, which is kind of like, that's always like Bilal, we saw that, where it's like, you know, if he was a college player, I don't think he gets drafted as high as he did, because he's playing against adults and showing that he can do this, there's definitely a
almost the Luke attacks. We like swung back the other way, where we see Luke go, and now all these international guys are playing in these leagues are getting. This is the worst probably draft for Miami too, I have to say, because I know they're really looking for a point guard, and we just took the two best ones left. Guard. So tough spot for Miami here at 20.
If I'm Miami though, I think I'm still happy. I think they might have even picked this with both of those players available. I think Igor Demin is very compelling for them. Because it's like, he really fits to me kind of that Miami archetype, where it's like, we want you to kind of, like, they give opportunities to every one of their players. It's kind of like what we see with Indiana, like a team by committee, especially without Jimmy Butler there anymore. So I think Igor Demin's a player who can really move the ball super well for them, and can kind of like he's one of those players where he's not going to be taking that shot, he's going to find the extra man, and I know Miami really prioritizes that. And his defense is pretty good. He's a big guy. He's 6'8" with a 6'10" wingspan for a guard. That's pretty insane. And I think it's a good swing for Miami. I think they need some of these swings. I think obviously they're going to be recruiting some star here in the next 5 to 10 years. So if you can develop some players to play around that guy, I think you're in a pretty good spot. I do obviously like Noah Penda. I know he's falling a bit here.
But just again, Noah Penda could go in the second round. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. And nobody knows. Igor Demin could go in the second round. Who knows? Yeah. But I like Igor Demin here for Miami.
Yeah, I don't hate it. We are at 52 minutes, so we'll probably speed run these last 9 picks again into the first round. So it doesn't really matter as much, though. I say that, and now I'm gonna kind of take my time here with the Jazz. At 21. I think it's an interesting spot for the Jazz. I think you try to get kind of the best player again, and I think in that case this is Asa Newell. Mm-hmm. I know, again, Med Penda dropping a little bit. I really like him, but I don't know if he fits what the Jazz are trying to do. Or Asa Newell has good upside. Again, kind of, he has great upside as a rim runner. Doesn't really play like a rim runner, but that's like, I think where he'll fit in with this Jazz offense. And getting an athletic guy, we don't know what's going to happen with John Collins in Utah, and kind of getting that guy that can be that John Collins type player. Would be perfect for Utah alongside Walker Kessler. So
Yes.
Flipping those guys, I think it would be good. Ace and Newell dropping to 21 here. I know he has higher buzz as well, but I think this is a good pick. I think the Jazz are happy with this.
I think they're happy for sure too. And like you were saying, like that kind of uncertainty about where you fit in the NBA kind of gets cleared up a bit, I feel like, where the teams will go, hey, this is what we expect from you. Maybe not the Jazz, because the Jazz are kind of in a weird spot. But there's a bit more structure that comes in where it's like, okay, well, you can do these things. Let's focus on this in particular. I like
another thing. I think the Hawks are pissed because they probably pick him at 22.
I think the Hawks would like that. Yeah. I was just thinking that because I mean it looks like the perfect big next to Trey.
Yeah, I would even pick him at 13, but because Sorber was available, I think they just go with the better player.
I agree. And now moving over to 22 with Atlanta. I think here this is where you're happy with someone with like. I think this might be Noah Penda's home, honestly. You get the defense coming in on a team that desperately needs more defensive players, and you have some pieces already, obviously, with Dyson Daniels, and getting another guy to kind of complement that, I think is going to be very strong, especially in this wing position where it's kind of hard to find those wing defenders in the NBA. And I think you're really happy with the cutting if you're Atlanta, because Trey's obviously going to have the ball. He's going to be looking at the floor. The more people moving, the better. There have been times in recent years in Atlanta where they kind of let Trey ISO and everyone kind of stands around besides maybe Capella in the paint. And I don't think that's very conducive to the type of play that Trae Young wants to do. And I think getting a guy who's a little older can maybe come in, maybe not this year, but next year and contribute is going to be pretty good for them. And at the same time, it's kind of a weird thing with Atlanta where maybe they are moving on from Trae Young pretty soon. We don't know. But if they don't, I think Noah Penda's a very good pick here for them.
Yeah, I agree. Here at 23 Pacers, again, we are at 55 minutes. I think... So Indiana have a couple of things. I think they need a big. I'm sorry. I know they're in the finals. Thomas Bryant cannot be your backup big going forward. So I think they're going to take a chance here on the young Frenchman, Joan. What's his name?
Behringer?
Yeah. Where is he on this list?
He's right on
I'm trying to find him.
And Danny Wolf.
No, I'm trying to find him on this.
On
the Fanspo list. Sort by center here. Joan Behringer out of France. A little bit unknown guy, but the things he does well, right? And that's rim running and blocking shots. He's not going to give you much else. I don't think Indiana needs much else from him. No. He's never going to space the floor, but again, I don't think that matters as much. We'll see what his stamina looks like. He is only 200 pounds, so at 6'10", he probably needs to bulk up a little, but we'll see how he fits in Indiana. I think this is kind of a long-term, we're going to need a backup big at some point. I think this guy can do it, kind of swing. And if he doesn't work out, you're still in the finals. You could probably find someone in free agency at the end of the day. But this gives him a nice buffer in case they can't, where he can kind of come in and play a few minutes in that backup role.
Yeah, it is a bit of a project, which to me is like, it's a little concerning for Indiana. I think they have a good offense and where you can kind of plug and play a lot of players. So I think they're not going to be as worried about this second apron as a team like Oklahoma City might be in a few years.
Who's backup?
But yeah, he could be a great backup when that second apron kind of does rear its head, because it will in today's CBA. But yeah, I like that for them.
All right, Ben here. This pick was actually traded to New Orleans, the 23rd pick. So we have Joan Behringer going to Indiana. New Orleans has a pick instead. I'm going to just stick with it's going to be the same pick. They're also kind of in need of a big to back up Missy. Could be him or Will Riley, but for the sake of the video, we'll just say Joan is going to New Orleans.
I think for Oklahoma City at 24, the other finals team right after.
Yeah, kind of funny.
It's another weird thing. Oklahoma doesn't really need anything, so I think they're just going to pick some young guy that can maybe play in the G League for a little bit and then end up being pretty good.
Yeah.
So if I'm then, you might as well just pick a guy like Will Riley. There's a lot of unknowns about his real, how he's gonna switch over with, he was a little inconsistent. He's just kind of a little small for his height. But those are both things that can get cleaned up, especially with a few years of like maybe backup reps or reps in the G League. And if he does pan out as this really dynamic scoring wing, I think that could be super valuable for OKC.
If that happens, we're like, fuck, man, another OKC hit.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Easily screenable on defense, but at least tries there.
Yep.
I would say. So I don't hate this. Again, you're taking a swing with OKC. You might as well. You already have a bunch of great players.
Yeah, like OKC is locked down. They're 1-9, and they have Nikola Topic, who hasn't played, and you have like there's all these ands on top. So
and you have Cedric Coward, who you just drafted in the spot. So yeah, Bill Riley there. Magic up at 25. This is their actual Magic pick. It says Drake Powell. Drake Powell is a Grizzlies pick. For me, this is the Magic. Need a point guard. Not many point guards available unless you want to take a chance on Ben Seraph. Oh, actually, no, you know what? I'm going to go with Walter Clayton Jr., senior out of Florida.
Yeah.
NCAA champion. I think he'll fit in. I think he has potential to be the starting point guard on the Magic. Although, actually, we'll probably see that be Jalen Suggs. But filling in that Cole Anthony role, because Cole Anthony was just traded, would be perfect for him. I think that's the perfect fit. Great shooter. Magic always needs shooting. I think Walter Clayton fits them really, really well. So I'm going to go with him.
He's been getting a lot of buzz recently, too. I've been seeing him up at 18 even for the Wizards.
Wow.
So I definitely like this pick.
I kind of hope that doesn't happen. But
No. I don't like that at all. It's like kind of the same people that are like, oh, we should pick Queen at 6. But you know, there are people who are putting him top 20. So I think this is definitely a fine pick for them.
Yeah.
And now moving on to the Brooklyn back-to-back bonanza. They don't really.
I really like this Brooklyn draft so far. Malawak and Richardson. So.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. I think they can just kind of get some guys to fill it out, and like, I mean, it's kind of the same situation. I think a lot of these rebuilding teams are with like the Trailblazers are a bit of an exception because they already kind of have a thing going on, but like the Jazz and the Wizards especially, like just kind of pick whoever is good you think at this position.
Yeah,
because you don't really have anybody long term. So I think if I'm them, I think I'm happy to take probably. This is kind of weird. There's a lot of older players left here. Where like I don't think you want to take Danny Wolf. Like he's like maybe I think Colin Murray Boyles fits a bit better with what they have going on. We're just like he's an amazing defender, and if you're kind of starting off your rebuild, not centered around but having these elite defenders around, it makes it a lot easier to fill in the blanks because you don't need to worry about this guy can't play defense, that can't play defense. It's like Colin Murray Boyles can maybe make up for that and fit those holes a bit more than some other players. And he's a very intriguing player to me. I don't really know what to think about him because of his, like, he can't really shoot. He's a huge, like, big guy with pretty good defense. He can make out of the post. He can score in the post, but he can't do much outside of the post. And if he does have the ball, he is pretty prone to turning it over. Which are all things I don't really think Brooklyn gives a shit about on, like, at this point in their rebuild. And I definitely think he has the potential to pan out to be a really good player. That wingspan is really compelling to me.
Yeah, Colin Murray Boyles is super, super interesting. I've seen him go in the top 20. I've seen him go in the top 10. You can see this guy's draft board that we're using for Fanspo has him in the top 10.
Yep.
Just such an interesting player because it is that Draymond archetype where if it pans out and he is a Draymond type player, that's amazing. But how many of those guys actually pan out into what you want? And being a 6'7" guy that plays like a center is obviously not the best. But I think if you're Brooklyn at 26, you're really happy to take this swing because, again, Colin Murray Boyles could go in the top 20 easily. Yeah. So getting a guy like this at 26 is a huge win. And I would have picked him at 27 if you didn't pick him at 26. Yep. So that's that.
And I think just looking at the overall landscape of this mock right now, I think Brooklyn fans are very happy with how things turned out.
Yeah, I think getting Jace, Malawak, and Murray Boyles, I think is really good as a start. Because, again, with Brooklyn, you're hoping at least one of these four guys pans out and becomes a rotational piece. Yeah. Hopefully even all four of them, like we saw the Wizards do last season with all three of them. But you obviously never know. I think this is a great starting point for Brooklyn, though, as they go into their rebuild and they get farther and farther in. At 27 here, Brooklyn obviously up again. Couple guys that are interesting. I like the Arrow.
Yep.
I like McNeely. Get a little shooter in there.
I like McNeely too.
And Danny Wolf could be interesting. I think they got enough swings where they can go connective piece, and I think that's going to be Liam McNeely. I think Ben Seraph is also a possibility as a playmaker, but again, I feel like so many swings already that getting someone that you know can be a pretty good role player is going to be important. And I think Liam McNeely is a great shooter, kind of that Corey Kispert type player. Every comparison I see of him is Corey Kispert.
That's so funny.
And that's, kind of even looks like Corey Kispert with the headband. And I think that's good for Brooklyn to have. Just get another shooter in there. Yeah. Let Jace, let Malawat cook a little bit, and get McNeely as a guy that can bring it all together as a play finisher.
And at the very least, these shooters are always so valuable that if he kind of pans out to be a Corey Kispert type player, we're seeing Corey Kispert, who, in my opinion, isn't even that good of a player in that archetype, get a lot of trade buzz right now just because of the shooting and who he is.
Shooting is always important.
So I like that a lot for Brooklyn for sure. And I was a little worried you're going to take Auto Tiro because I think this is a guy that Brooklyn or Boston would be very happy to get. It's kind of, I think the wing position is kind of weird for Boston because obviously you have Tatum and Brown, but Brown can also play guard. Tatum can play a bit of the bigger forwards, which I think Auto Tiro would probably be playing a power forward anyway. But just I think they're always looking for that motor out of these guys, like the especially for the role players that come out and like really play hard. He's got he just grew a bunch, so I think the defensive end is going to look very compelling for Boston. Shooting's kind of an issue, but Boston has so many great shooters that I don't think it's as big of an issue. They managed to play Luke Cornett, who's not a great shooter anyway. And he does foul a lot, but that's every young guy. I think this is a guy who could come in and contribute immediately for a contender, and I think Boston would be very happy if they managed to get this guy this late.
Yeah, Boston's a super interesting spot too because Tatum's obviously going to miss most of the year next year, so we're not really sure what this team's going to look like. And if Tatum does miss most of the year, which again he will, Diarra or whoever they pick at 28 is going to get some good playing time. Yeah. You would think so. I think this is a good pick for Boston.
Yeah, and just like looking at everyone left, it's like you're not really taking a big swing. There's like a lot of bigs that you don't like. I could see Boston taking a big for sure to replace Horford, but I think just taking maybe a bit of a swing on a guy that could maybe contribute immediately in a year where Tatum isn't around to fill this wing role. I think that could be pretty compelling for them, and they always need more. High motor athletic players that can grab rebounds and finish and stuff like that.
Again, late 20s, that's kind of, you got to look at specific things or specific elite skills, and getting a guy that has at least one is great. 29, Phoenix. Again, Phoenix, disgusting spot as a team right now. Second apron, Kevin Durant's going to be on the move. I don't know what's going to happen with Devin Booker. Bradley Beal is here to stay. We know that. That's the one thing we know. Yep. I think I'm going to go kind of a swing here with Ben Seraph. Good playmaker, pretty good size. I think he'd go a lot earlier in the draft, and I think if you're getting him at 29, this is fantastic for Phoenix. Again, they just need something to go right for them. I think getting Ben Seraph in here is at the very least a high upside pick.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think he's the highest upside of whoever's left, the highest potential maybe. And you just need, I don't know what the fuck Phoenix is doing. I don't know what they need.
They need a lot right now, but good all around.
This could even be a player where maybe you're looking at this after this contending period. I know that's not what Ishbia is really looking at right now. He's kind of competing right now. But I do think you need to start having that conversation. What does this team look like post KD, post Beal? Because post KD is probably coming in the next week or so. And maybe they get a few more picks in this draft when they trade KD. We'll see.
Yeah, we might. Again, if there's a trade throughout the year, because we're recording this obviously before any of these happen, we'll probably cut in and kind of talk about it.
Yeah, or we could do like a little mini 5-minute showcase of that new team's what they might want to do. We'll get to there if it happens. I'm not even.
If it happens.
People are acting very certain that KD is going to be traded in the next week. I'm not as certain. Obviously, I don't have these connections that the media insiders do. But I don't know. I don't see a market. It's kind of like Giannis. I didn't really see a market for Giannis. Everyone's like, Giannis is
It's
going
hard.
to get
He's
traded.
making like $54 million. It's hard for a team to match that, especially when Phoenix can't aggregate contracts because they're the second agent. So.
And he's 36. It's like, dude, are we doing this for 2 years of KD, you know?
Exactly. So it's hard to give up a lot.
Now for the last pick in our mock draft, the LA Clippers. This is another weird situation where they are a very good team who I think could use some immediate contribution, but they're also a pretty old team. So it's like, are they going to be looking at the future? Are they going to be looking at right now? In my opinion, if I'm LA, I am probably going to be trying to and get someone who can immediately contribute, since you're in a position where you almost beat Denver this year, who almost beat OKC, who might win the finals. So you're a couple steps below that, but at the same time, like you're in these postseason games, and whenever you're in a position where you can win at least the first round, I feel like you got to go for it. So if I'm them, it's tough. There's not a lot of players left that like I really think fit super well.
As 30th overall pick.
As the 30th overall pick. And, you know, I'm not really going to overthink it. I like this guy's name. I think I'm just going to pick Bogolajov Markovic.
He's been on this list.
He's on it. He's very low.
This...
on the other list?
Oh, no, he is.
He is. I mean, he's a shooter. He's a big stretch guy who hustles, and, you know, there are concerns with, like, defense, ball handling. But on a team with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, you're not going to be seeing the ball as much. So I don't think that's as pressing as some other teams. And like I said, I just want to hear them call that name out on draft night. So I'm going.
It's a great name.
Bogolajub. I can't even say. Markovic. I can say Markovic.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I like this mock draft. Here's the final one. You can see the big picture overall. This is how it shaped up for us. Again, this Magic pick is the Grizzlies. But yeah, let us know what you guys think, who you want your team to pick, who you want the Wizards to pick. What else?
Yeah,
who's too high, who's too low, who didn't get drafted that should be drafted in the first round, all that good stuff.
I'd love to hear thoughts on 18 specifically. That was the position where I'm like, this could be anybody here.
Yeah.
Because it's very dependent on who gets picked up and who falls. So I'm very curious to hear everyone's opinions on who the Wizards might be grabbing with that pick.
Yeah, very interesting draft. Hopefully by the end of this, we're looking at this, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, and we're like, man, the Wizards made the correct picks.
Yep.
We made the correct picks, and with that, Gafford, take us out.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy DG. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Nothing major. We hitting the wizard bed tonight, baby. Let's get it. Gafford out.